I'm going to talk about the open internet a little bit, but first I need to air a little bit of dirty laundry. This is the banned Mark Surman grade 11 yearbook picture. And, I put this up there. I live in a very small town in northern Ontario, about 10,000 people, Milltown. And I put this up not because I want sympathy for having been the one punk rock kid in Kenora, Ontario, but because as I think about the internet every day in my work, a lot comes from that moment in my life. That it was so exciting, I was so drawn in by the idea that anybody could pick up a guitar, write a song. Anybody could get a Tascam 4-track cassette recorder and record an album. Anybody, like me, could get a pair of scissors, some glue, and a photocopier and make a magazine. And while today that just seems absolutely trivial, at the time, that was just revolutionary. Punk was a revolutionary movement, a movement of resistance against a monoculture of culture. And the thing that really has stayed with me from that time, although I'm still as bald, the other thing that has stayed with me other than the haircut is this DIY ethos that was absolutely central to what punk rock was, and I think came into the hearts and minds of tens of millions of people around the world. And that ethos still guides me every day in leadership, in parenting, and whatever I do. And I think that ethos really has infused itself in ways that now are the maker movement, or really a lot about what the web is. And that's actually the kind of thing, to John's point, we need to think about with the web and the open web. And I think that we haven't quite done, and in fact are in danger of losing, which is how do we build an ethos of the open web, of the things we believe, that really is in the hearts of most or all of the people that it touches, so that it shapes who they are, who their children are, what we build into the future, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. So that's the theme I want to talk about, is the ethos of the open web, where there have been some victories that Mozilla has been involved in, where we are now, which is I think we're losing, and how do we turn that around? But I want to start a little bit with two sub-themes that are really important to me. One is heroes, and who are the heroes that we look to? And certainly in punk rock, it was people like The Clash and the Sex Pistols and the Dead Kennedys. You always need or benefit from heroes who kind of draw you and embody that ethos. So I want to talk a little bit about heroes in the open web, but I also want to talk about Lego, which to me, the internet at its best is just a big kit of Lego. So it's, for me, a good way to think about what the open web is. So we'll start with a little bit of a movie teaser on the theme of heroes and Lego. And if you haven't seen the Lego movie and you don't want a spoiler, leave now.
Nothing's gonna stop me now.
Wait.
This is the evil guy, Mr. Business.
Now there's a prophecy.
About the piece of resistance.
Oh, yes. The supposed missing piece of resistance that can somehow magically disarm the Craggle. Give me a break.
The Craggle is the super weapon being carried away.
One day, a talented Lassaw fellow, a special one with face of yellow, will make the piece of resistance found from its hiding refuge underground. And with a noble army at the helm, this master builder will thwart the Craggle and save the realm, and be the greatest, most interesting, most important person of all times.
So what's happened here is Mr. Business, who has taken the Craggle, the evil weapon, that he is going to use to take control over the whole world of Lego. And, we've heard that there is a hero coming. If we can just wait, the hero will lead the resistance. And, for me, I had the opportunity about 5 years ago to go and become executive director of Mozilla Foundation, really help reboot what we were doing. And it went because those were my heroes. The people who had founded Mozilla well before me, and it started, as John said, in the late 90s, became a foundation in 2003. And they had an ethos that drew me. Although I think it's an ethos that we have done a very poor job, all of us, but Mozilla included, of explaining to the world. The 2 billion people on the web don't know what the open internet is. Now, the closest I have gotten before is, there's two things. And we often talk about openness in terms of interoperability and end-to-end principles and all of this stuff that we, the kind of language we use here. But to me, the test of whether we're getting where we're going, the ethos I believe in, is an internet where anyone can make anything and where anyone can share with anyone. And so make anything is that Lego piece of it, that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, without asking anybody's permission, you can make what you want. And it's very open-ended. The share with anyone is an open network that anyone can get anything across. And when Mozilla started as a foundation in 2003, that was not the internet we were trending towards. Microsoft had a monopoly on how people saw the internet. It was 99% of the browser market. They were taking that Lego set and moving it towards ActiveX, moving it away from a standard implementation of HTML. The open internet, the Lego set, was under threat. And this group of people, who I actually still, in many ways, consider my heroes, even though I get to work with them every day, the founders, really, of the Firefox era of the Mozilla project, said, we're only 10 people, we've got thousands of volunteers, sure, let's take on the biggest company in the world, because we actually see the web as being under threat. And they did an amazing thing. They did something nobody thought was possible. A nonprofit that took on the most dominant software company in the world at its own game and built a set of values into a product that then went on to take 25% of market share. And that vision of Firefox is very particular to, I think, something we can be proud of as Mozilla, can be grateful for as people who care about the open web, but should understand and see how we can seize again in the future, which is they didn't just go and say, Microsoft is bad, or try to change policy, although I do think the antitrust case against Microsoft was important in this story. They said, let's build our values into the way people use the internet every day, and let's do that with a piece of software people want that has trivial things, but things that people desire, like pop-up blocking and better security. And then let's get that in the hands of hundreds of millions of people. And that's what they were able to do, and not only do for Firefox, but they brought web standards across from Firefox into Chrome, into Safari, into IE even, where now, seems trivial, but you can basically run advanced software across any platform and not worry what kind of computer you're on. And that's because the open internet won. And it's because the folks who made Firefox did play an important role, I think, as heroes in that way. And the result is the internet we all know and love today. YouTube, Gmail, all of those things were not possible until the web standards that underlie things like AJAX became commonplace on our computers. But the thing is, with that victory behind us, it's not actually necessarily the case that things are going well. The companies that now own large percentage, most of the internet traffic that benefited from that, themselves for business reasons, start to wonder whether that open ethos, the make anything, share anywhere, actually works for them or not. And so we're actually at a different moment in the Lego movie right now. So let's pause and look at that.
And it's not just you, bad cop, that keeps messing up my plans. People everywhere are always messing with my stuff. But I have a way to fix that. A way to keep things exactly the way they are supposed to be. Permanently. Behold, the most powerful weapon of all the relics. The Craggle!
Oh, I love that moment. It's such a good movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. So, I got kids who are 12 and 14 who I saw that movie with and loved it. And they love the web as it is today. And they're YouTubers. They both publish YouTube videos. They love things like Zoella and Tyler Oakley, who are two famous vloggers. For them, the internet is awesome. And it is a creative outlet that is unlike anything I grew up with in the television era. And in many ways, there's so much still to celebrate from the victories that have come and the things that the web has unfolded. But at the same time, if you think about the big tension, like pre-Crazy Glue in the Lego movie. It is between the construction set mentality and the open-ended box of Lego. And we really have, in many ways, moved into the construction set era. Yes, you can put things on Facebook. Yes, you can put things on Instagram, but in a very prescribed way. And that may be good or may be bad, and there's a lot of freedom and wonder in that, but also a lot of constraint, and constraint that, as Rebecca talked about this morning, is a small set of sovereigns of the internet who decide how that's going to work. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. But it is very different than the open internet where anyone can make anything and share with anyone. The things you can make are prescribed, and how they move around is increasingly limited and siloed and also prescribed. But at the same time, if we kind of take the health of our ethos, do a health check on it, governments are also screwing with that ethos. Whether that is China or other places that are trying to block, or America or other places that are trying to surveil, governments are screwing the internet in ways that are palpable and widely understood, that we all feel. And certainly as people who stand for that ethos, that open ethos, feel under threat. Companies are doing the same thing, and we are in what I think is actually an exciting fight around net neutrality in the US this summer. And I think more and more important, the way that mobile phones define how we see the internet is really undermining, virtually erasing that ethos. And just one thought on that often we don't consider. For the next 3 billion people who come online, we're going to be about 5 billion people online within the next 10 years. This will be their only computer. And this is primarily a content consumption device or a one-to-one communications device. So imagine if that was your only computer, and then imagine if that was the only computer of most people on the internet, and imagine if that set their expectations of what was possible. That is very much the Lego construction set reality, not the open ethos of the internet. And just to underline that, the thing that we really haven't paid attention to is we've gone from the most democratic distribution system for information ever, the URL, where anyone can make anything, anyone can distribute to anyone, to now a situation where 2 companies control all the software distribution that will go to the next 3 billion people who get on the internet, and increasingly control the media distribution. So we've gone from the most open distribution system in the history of humanity to the most locked down, and we've loved it. And that's where we are. So that, plus China, plus the black and white YouTube, I don't feel awesome about the ethos of the open internet surviving. Not because there's not a lot of good stuff we're doing, but because the people who come online in the next 10 years just won't know what it is. It'll just fade off into history. And I don't want that to happen. And so the question is, where are the heroes and how do we find them? Which I think will be the subject of our talk. But to get us there, one last clip, ruining the end of the Lego movie for you.
Aww.
I know things seem kind of bad right now, but there is a way out of this. This is Emmett.
And he was just like all of you.
A face in the crowd, following the same instructions as you. He was so good at fitting in, no one ever saw him. And I owe you an apology, because I used to look down on people like that.
I used to think they were followers with no ideas or vision.
Because it turns out Emmett had great ideas. And even though they seemed weird and kind of pointless, they actually came closer than anyone else to saving the universe. And now we have to finish what he started.
By making whatever weird thing pops into our heads.
All of you have the ability inside of you to be a groundbreaker. And I mean literally. Break the ground! Peel up the pieces, tear apart your walls. Build things only you could build. Defend yourselves. We need to fight back against President Business's plans to freeze us.
Round of applause for the Lego movie and fighting back. And so the message may seem trite and obvious that in all of us and everyone around us are the heroes. And that's the theme of this movie, that we do need to pick up the pieces of the Lego and build the reality we want. And in doing that, they chase away the evil, bad, crazy glue machines with cool, weird spaceships that they build, which all of us can clearly do with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But the message is important in that the solution or the way to take the ethos that I believe in, and I believe many of you believe in, and make it pervasive, make it something that lasts for decades or centuries inside of our hearts and in the way we shape what our society becomes, comes from people picking up and building. And this is a group of people who are doing that, whether we're working on net neutrality policy, trying to build an open phone operating system as Mozilla is, trying to teach people to code. All those things matter, and that's what that scene is about. And we're all doing those things, and we're all failing still. And that's the question that I want to engage with here, is it actually isn't in this room, certainly that we're going to get to enough weight to protect and grow and deepen the ethos of the open internet. And it's certainly not in that next 3 billion people that we'll be able to have an impact. We have to look at how do we actually encourage a next generation of leaders, people who are going to be able to carry that ethos forward. And that's the thing I don't know how to do, because my kids, they love just being YouTubers. And so I guess my question is, for my kids, the YouTubers, or for the farmer John mentioned, like, how do we build the next, I would say, 2, 3, 5, 10 million people who carry forth the ethos of the open internet? And that's our question for today.